Hello, welcome once again to Radical Freedom. I'm Kurt Waldrop, and we're going to talk about something going on in the Kingdom of Spain and how that would affect our American political scene right now. So recently, the Spanish province of Catalonia in the north of Spain voted to secede from the rest of the country. Now, they believe that they have the political right to be free of the kingdom and to follow their own political path. Now, we normally look at American politics here on this channel and how it relates to the U.S. Constitution. So we need to figure out, what does that have to do with anything in America? Right now, there is a secession movement in the United States, in California specifically, that has the support of over a third of California voters, and the number could grow. They're not calling for a civil war, you understand. In fact, there have been many secessionist movements that have been completely peaceful, such as the splitting of Canada from the British Empire or the splitting of Norway from Sweden. Central authorities are not the best way to solve our problem. Competition is. And as Californians torture businesses, raise taxes, etc., Californians escape. They move to Texas or Arizona, where our laws are a little easier going. The more governments that you have to choose from, the easier it is to benefit from competition between those governments. Calexit's proponents say that Californians shouldn't have to answer to that evil President Trump, who's currently in the White House, and that the United States is in general way too conservative for them. It's funny, I seem to remember these same people when Texas was talking about secession under Obama and saying how crazy that the Texans were. Now they're doing almost the identical thing. What did the founding documents say about secession? In the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson wrote that governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That means if the people vote to secede, they should have the right to secede. That seems pretty cut and dry. If the government is not giving you what you want, and you have a majority of people behind you, it's time to change it or leave it. That's Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, the guy who wrote the Declaration of Independence. Many would say that the American Civil War ended the issue of secession for once and for all, but due to the fact that the Union won, of course. But the argument is just a restatement of the old adage that might makes right. And does anyone really want to stand behind that? I'm right because I'm strong. That means every bully in school is right. That means that when the Third Reich conquered countries and imposed its laws, imposing genocide and such things as that the Third Reich was in the right because it was strong enough to enforce it. No, I cannot abide that. The 13 colonies seceded from Great Britain because they were rejecting the idea that might makes right. Just as a mental exercise, let's completely change the little battlefield here of our little argument. Instead of nations or states, let's just say that you wanted to join a country club. And there are rules in the charter of the club on the steps that have to be taken to join, but there's nothing at all on how you go about leaving. So, you just assume, well, I'll just walk away. Over the course of time, the rules of the club slowly change. And eventually it says things like all the members have to wear a suit and tie when you mow the grass, or you have to make sure that there's no coffee in your home at all, or you can face a fine to the club. Maybe you decide, well, that's kind of ridiculous. I can't see paying dues for this. So you decide you want to end your membership. You're then taken into a room by the board of directors and told that you actually cannot end your membership in this club. Your membership has to be for all time, And that once you die, your children will also be members. And they can never leave the club. It's perpetual. Wouldn't you think that was crazy? Going on the idea that might makes right, at that point, you pull your gun out and shoot the board of directors. And that makes you right. No, that's ridiculous. Just as it's ridiculous that a board of directors of a club could do that. But isn't it equally ridiculous to think that the government of the United States can tell a state that votes to leave that it can't? Don't you think this scenario with the country club sounds insane? And yet that's exactly how it is in the United States today. Instead of the federal government existing to fulfill its constitutional duty, today it just seems to exist to rule over us. Well, what does the Supreme Court have to say about secession? In 1869, the Supreme Court ruled on a case between Texas and the federal government that secession is illegal. It's just flat out illegal. Now, I guess that settles that, right? Of course, they also ruled that Dred Scott wasn't a human being, and that even if his master took him to another state, a free state, he was still property. The Supreme Court also ruled that separate be equal in restaurants or train carriages, buses, or in schools in the southern states was also completely legal. Folks, Supreme Court's just made up of people. People make mistakes. I would have to say this is one of them. So back to the will of the government. To California, I say go for it. Secede, baby. Bye. I really hope that you succeed in your search for secession. Yeah. I personally would love to see your socialist, liberal policies limited to your own little state. And I'd hope that others of the same mind would actually immigrate to the great Republic of California and join you and get out of our political system. I'd like to see return to the Constitution. Now, I would also suggest that if you look at the enumerated powers of the federal government, that you'll find that if we just returned to that and allowed each state to run business its own way, we'd be a lot better off, and we might not have to be talking about secession. Now, please understand, I love this country. I am an American patriot. But what I love is the Constitution of the United States, because to me, that's what that flag represents. The Bill of Rights sets out what the rights of every American are. One of those rights that is set out for us in the Bill of Rights is the 10th Amendment. And I quote, "The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited it by the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people." Wow. When was the last time you heard about that? The rights of the people and the states supersede those of the federal government in almost everything. Of course, that's mostly ignored in Washington today. No. The United States Constitution is not perfect, but it is better than what we're using now. Thank you for watching today. I hope that you go down below here. Give me a thumbs up, please. Leave a comment. I want to know what you think. I want to know what you thought about the video. I want to know what subjects you'd like me to cover in the future. I think I'm going to try to stick to current news and how it is involved with the Constitution. But we'll take it a week at a time and just see what we come up with. I'd like to thank my co-host here, Wolfie, for just hanging out with me today. And I would also like to ask you to buy my book, Radical Freedom. Look up Kurt Waldrop on Amazon, and I'm sure you'll be able to find it there. It's pretty interesting. It covers a lot of what we talk about on here, but of course it does it in its own peculiar way. Thank you for watching. Until next time, this is Kurt Waldrop.